Hey there, welcome to Startup Steroid. Today it's my great pleasure to interview JJ Richa of Pismo Ventures. He's a very good friend and he's a fantastic angel investor. So I can't wait to interview him and learn all the lessons from him today. But first of all, let me give you a quick background. JJ has been doing angel investing for many, many years. He's affiliated with Tech Coast Angels and several other angel groups. And just last year, he started Pismo Ventures. And we'll get into that story in the interview. But with Pismo Ventures, one of the great things he's doing this year is he's hosting a venture competition, which is a nationwide competition to essentially connect startups founders with angel investors, and he's doing a phenomenal job with that. We have lots of details about that competition in the interview today, and also he is hosting networking events for angel investors, and where investors can interact with each other and essentially build their own networks. So all of that is coming up in the interview today. But let me first start out by saying that if you want to join our network, go to startupsteroid.com and sign up there. If you're an angel investor, you can go to startupsteroid.com/investor and just fill out the form there. If you are a founder that's looking to raise capital and you want to plug into our network, you can go to startupsteroid.com/founder and fill out the form there, and we'll get you set up on our database, and maybe we can even have you on this show, so this way you get a bigger exposure for your company. So without further ado, let's start the interview with JJ. So JJ, welcome to the show. I'm really looking forward to this conversation because you're doing so many interesting things with Pismo, and all of the competition you have, the fund you're working on. There are so many interesting things that we have to cover on the show today. But let's start with a little bit of a background from you. So tell me, like, your story, how you got started, how you came into the venture space, and all of that.
Well, thank you first for having me. So I am an entrepreneur at heart. So I even as an investor, I still think of myself as an entrepreneur, and I think even when I'm helping entrepreneurs, I think as an entrepreneur more than an investor at times. So. But I started several companies in my career. I sold three, and I learned a lot from the rest. In 2007, I sold my last company, the biggest one I had, and then in 2008, I became an investor with Tecos Angels. I'm still a member since then. It's about 12 years now, and so I was kind of really completely a rookie, right? Didn't know anything. I was just on one side of the world, didn't know how investors think, what angels do, and so it's been a huge learning experience to be on the investor side, and I really enjoy it. I enjoy helping entrepreneurs quite a bit as well. And last year, I started Pismo Ventures, and I think just before the show, you asked me why Pismo, why the name Pismo, and my answer to you was because the premise is everybody wants to start a business, they want to sell it, and the ultimate goal is to go sit on a beach, and Pismo Beach is a really great beach. So. Uh,
Absolutely. It's a destination in California. So yeah, that's a everybody needs to keep their eye on that end goal, right? So Pismo Venture
right.
makes perfect sense.
Yeah, that's true. So Pismo Ventures, just to give you a little bit background, it started with the basic premise that we understand what entrepreneurs or how entrepreneurs think. We understand how investors think. And then also there is another piece of the puzzle, and that is software development or custom software. And that's what we added to Pismo Ventures. So we are a venture studio, which means um, we provide to the entrepreneurs or the portfolio companies more than just funds or cash or capital. We provide human capital as well, and we provide software development as well. And then
Nice.
we're willing to take equity in the form of a convertible note in lieu of some of the services or human capital and the software development. But also, we're willing to invest cash. And also, we are building a fund in order to have the fund invest into portfolio companies as well.
Fantastic, fantastic. And I know you've been doing this for about a year now, and you're actually running a national competition. So I want to first start with that, and then we'll get into the fun part, because I know that has, obviously in the COVID world, that's a little bit of a challenge. So let's start with the competition first, because I think that's really exciting. And for all the startups, I think that's probably what they're going to focus in on most. So tell me about that.
Well, okay, so like you said, the competition idea came about from the COVID world. We live in a virtual world right now. It's been really about 5 months, right? And it doesn't look like we're coming out of it soon. It may be another 5, 6 months, maybe more. So the idea behind the competition came from everybody's not able to meet in a big room and meeting people and talking to the entrepreneurs and the companies and understanding who they are, maybe introducing them to others that could help them. So we thought, why not create a national competition? We could have done something local, but we started with the idea of, let's create something maybe a little bit bigger than the local one, but also let's create something that's a little bit unique. And I think we ended up doing that. So, and the uniqueness is, I mean, most competition, as you know, what they do is they businesses compete, and then they win a little bit of cash, then they win a little bit of in-kind prizes, and then everybody goes home. So the idea behind the uniqueness of what we did is to say, hey, look, yes, you're going to win a little bit of cash, a little bit of in-kind prizes, but what about giving the winners, and potentially not only the winners, all the applicants that are there, regardless if they win or didn't win, give them the opportunity to raise capital from multiple angel groups, VCs, and family offices across the country. So the initial thought was, okay, maybe we'll get 5 to 15 angel groups and VCs and to be part of this. Basically, the winners and potentially others, like I said, would be kind of fast-tracked into pitching to these groups.
Right.
And so now we have 42.
Ooh.
So potentially, depending on the criteria of each of the groups, they're going basically to allow the competitors to go and pitch to them, and that's huge.
Wow. Yeah.
So now instead of just, okay, I pitch to the competition, now you're going to have a follow-on that you can pitch to others. The other thing is, we thought we will have maybe 50, 60 investors that would be participating in the judging, because we need someone to judge the competition.
Right.
We have 120 investors
Ooh.
that have
Wow.
committed their time to, and across the board, we have 10 different categories. So across the board, so each category has a judging panel. Some panels have up to 50 investors on one panel. So the feedback that you could provide to the entrepreneur who's pitching to the judging panel is going to be huge. I mean, even if they don't make it,
right,
they're going to get so much feedback. The learning experience is going to be really great. Two more things that we added. And so we have 20 webinars that will be part. So, and it's about every startup topic. So from how to build your startup board, to how to pitch to investors, to how to get investors to write you a check, to also some of our sponsors, which including IP firms and transactional firms, that will talk about what it takes to really have the right convertible note and have the right structure for your team. So everything, so all these webinars on their own would be by themselves a great experience and educational opportunity for the entrepreneurs. And one last thing we're adding, we haven't launched, so we will by the time this, I guess, publishes, it'll be launched, but
Yep.
this will be launched next week. We're creating a full virtual online um, environment. So we will have a happy hour where every week we would have a virtual lounge where people go into the virtual lounge, and then there are virtual tables. Each table has 4 seats, and then you can grab a seat on a table, and then you'll be able to, and others grab the same seat, and then each table has 4 seats, and then those 4 people that sit on that table, they'll be able to have a video conference with all 4 of them together, and they can
Fantastic.
mingle. And now you can leave that table and jump to another table because maybe they saw you sitting on the other table, they want to talk to you.
Right.
So it's a virtual environment, just like you and I talked about having a big room. This is going to be really big because it's all virtual.
Right.
Uh, so it's a kind of a lounge and happy hour, and then we're going to do the same thing before and after each webinar to give the entrepreneurs the ability to go and mingle, ask questions, and maybe the investors to also start learning about these different companies. So a lot to unpack here, but it's a lot of things. And the competition is only $250 to enter.
Right.
So it's really not a lot of money. If you think of, it's like $10 a webinar, I guess, if you think about it that
Right.
way.
Right.
But the learning experience and the opportunity to really connect with investors and potentially present to multiple is
Right.
really the key here.
And I think you really found a need with this initiative, because obviously, 42 angel groups gathering under one umbrella, that's incredible in itself. And then so many judges, so many startups joining behind it. This is a fantastic initiative, and I'm guessing all the details for people who are watching, they're on pismoventures.com, right? So I'll add the link to
Yeah,
the.
they can go to pismoventures.com, but we have a separate website. I mean, it links to that one. It's ventureplancompetition.com.
Yep.
So
Okay.
ventureplancompetition.com, or
Got
they
it.
can go to pismoventures.com and they can link to that.
Yeah, so I'll have all the links on the in the description below. So if you're driving or something, don't worry, just
Yeah,
click on the link. You don't
don't
have
worry
to
about
pull over to write the URL
So
down.
I'll just mention one quick thing. And
Yep.
so we're asking the entrepreneurs to submit a 3-page plan, a 60-second video pitch, and a
Hmm.
deck. So they can register, and then they have, so it's a 2-step process. They can register to make sure that they save a spot for them because we're running out of spots. And
Okay.
then next is they can still submit their application and all the materials in a second step. And so that way they don't have to feel pressured that they need to do all of them in one step.
Fantastic, fantastic. And if a startup signs up for this show, they automatically get the video clip for your application. So it's 2 for 1.
That's perfect. That's great. Yes.
Fantastic. Okay, so this is such a great initiative, and I do want to get a better understanding of how you approach startups, also, and how you sort of got into this. But you've been doing angel investing for now with Tech Coast Angel and on your own for over 10 years now, I think close to 12 years now. So I want to sort of understand your mindset, how you look at different industries, how you look at startups. So tell me a little bit about your analytical process.
So they're from an investment standpoint, if you're looking at it from an investment standpoint,
Hmm.
really there are maybe 5 or 6 things that I kind of look at. As you know, there's probably dozens of potential things that you have to look at, but I would look at really maybe at 5 or 6 things that I look at all the time. One is um, the team. How and again, I think that's the most important. And if entrepreneurs don't hear that enough, they should hear it again and again, because they need to hear the fact that investors look at the team. So if
Yeah.
you have a passionate team, you have a knowledgeable team, and then then that's the first thing that someone is going to invest in. Is they're going to invest in the team, because if the team is right, what's going to happen? That team is going to be able to change and pivot if things go in a different direction.
Mm.
But if the team is not right, then that opportunity to invest is going to be potentially less than having the right team. Second is um, there is also the timing. So, for example, if you're opening a restaurant today and you're trying to raise capital, not a good time, right?
Right.
So timing is really important. Third, there is the term of what we're of the opportunity. Are they raising money on a $50 million pre-money valuation, or is it on $3 million pre-money valuation?
Right.
So that becomes really big, is the term. The other thing is, for me, is also the back. Even if the team is great and the passion is there, and they understand how to build businesses, let's say, but do they have experience in that specific sector,
Mm.
whatever they're doing? So yes, they may learn it, right? And if they're a good team, they may learn it, but then that's going to take a longer time to get to where you want. If
Right.
you've been in the hospitality industry, you're going to know how to navigate that. You're going to understand what it takes to build a sales team, etc. But if you've never done that before and you sold consumer products, then it's going to take you a long time to understand that. Or maybe if you're doing hospitals or healthcare or biotech, or uh, it's going to take a long time to understand what it takes.
Right.
And there's a lot more, but the last thing that I would say that I look at is also uh, it could be it's go-to-market strategy slash distribution strategy. So what does that mean? It's like, how are you going to sell that product or service when you go to the market? So are you going to knock on every door and say, would you buy my product? Or are you going to have some kind of a distribution channel that minimizes your customer acquisition cost, and then you can sell to as many people as possible without having a lot of direct sales. So that's a big deal for me, because it ends up um, really minimizing customer acquisition cost and understanding that this company is going to be scalable. So at the end of the day, that's what we want. We want to invest into something that becomes really scalable quickly,
Mm-hmm.
and then have an exit in, say, 5 years. Average is 7 years. We say 5, we say 3, never happens. I think 7 to 11 is the average.
Right.
But those are the 6 points that I usually kind of look at.
That's fantastic. And yeah, such great points that, I want to sort of dig into a little bit more, because that go to market strategy, I think specifically that you talked about, so many people just say, oh, yeah, I'm going to advertise on Facebook and I'm going to get $20 million worth of sales, right?
Yeah,
And you and I being in this industry, we know that that might have been true 5 years ago, but it isn't true anymore.
yep.
So tell me a little bit more about how you sort of dig into that go-to-market strategy, and how you sort of look at different vectors that the entrepreneur might be considering.
Yeah, so I mean, I could maybe we can take an example. So
Yeah.
if you are in the hospitality industry and let's say you're selling to restaurants, and so really there are, if you go advertise on Facebook for restaurants, you're going to spend a lot of money, and you're not going to get, you might get one or
Right.
two, because it's not the right environment. If you, there are a couple of other alternatives, right? There may be others, but one could be you hire a huge sales team, maybe 10, 15, 20, 30 people, whatever it is, depending how big you are, or if how early of a startup. But it could be maybe you as a sole founder, or maybe a couple others. You're gonna go knock on doors. You're gonna go into each restaurant and say, I have this really cool technology. It's gonna save you time and money and all that. Would you buy it? And knowing, for example, restaurant owners, it's going to take for no one's going to say, oh yeah, let me sign up right now.
Yeah.
No one's going to say that. So it's going to take a long time for someone to actually sign up, potentially multiple times that you need to touch them, maybe 5, 10, 15 times before you sell. And that could be basically a long sales cycle. On average, selling to a restaurant, again, this is not a statistics that I got from anywhere. It's from experience.
Right.
Is 6 months on average in order to sell, especially if you're knocking on doors on your own, or your team, your direct sales. The other option, as to explain what we just talked about, what you asked me, is a distribution channel strategy. How do you go to market? So would be, who touches restaurants on a daily basis?
Mm-hmm.
Who touches them is maybe the point of sale um, resellers. They sell point of sales to restaurants all the time.
Right.
And they actually, what they do, for example, is they find out if the way ahead of time, maybe 3, 4, 5 months before the restaurant opens. They find out because they need a liquor license. They need
Right.
a to build the environment, or to revamp it, their venue. They need to get licenses. So what these point of sales and potentially others similar to them, they know 3, 4 months ahead of time that there is a restaurant opening.
Mm-hmm.
And also they know about the restaurants that are potentially trying to change. So they're in touch with them on a regular basis. They're selling them stuff. They can, if whatever the company is starting fits into that environment, then these point of sale companies or resellers now become their resellers as well.
Right.
And now you can have literally thousands of resellers across the United States selling your product as a company. Of course, there's got to be a business model where they're making money out of that too. So they're not going to
Right.
do it just to do it.
Yeah.
So so
So
that's a
yeah.
I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, you did. I think this is such an interesting, topic that we could probably talk about it for another 2 hours.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right in that those partnerships. I think that's what you're referring to,
Yeah, the
where
partnerships.
you're partnering with other people who are going after the same audience,
Yes.
and now you could sort of build a bigger influence very quickly, because hopefully those partners already have an in.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you another example. For example, like, have you heard of you've heard of Calm, the app where it takes 30 seconds
Yep.
to do nothing.
Yep.
Um, so how do they reach? Right now, they're doing advertising, but how did they reach people before? They go potentially into doctors' offices,
Yep.
and they're saying, "Hey, doctor, for every sign up, someone signs up, you get $25 or whatever, something."
Right.
But that's how they introduce people to this, and it could be for this could be therapeutic, right? You know, take it to breathe for 30 seconds and do nothing, and maybe
Right.
it's for someone who's stressed out to relieve stress, etc. So I gave you in a hospitality example. This is a healthcare example if you want, but it's that partnership that you build across multiple partners. And then as you're building the business, you start understanding and finding out which partner is the right partner, and
Hmm.
what business model is the right business model, how much you give them uh, from the revenue, etc.
Right, right, right. And this is also so interesting when you are looking at different sort of B2B model versus a B2C model, because you suggested both, right? With the going to the restaurant, it's essentially a B2B sale, but you
Yep,
can partner with the point of sale company. Versus a B2C where com is going directly to the consumer, but now you're partnering with a doctor's office, or the psychologist or anyone like that, who can
right.
sort of get you into that customer also.
Yep.
um, let's I want to get your take on sort of the sales cycle for each of these different models, the B2B versus the B2C. because they can potentially be very different and can have a huge impact on the startup, right?
Yeah.
So tell me about your
So
experience with that. Yeah.
that's really a big question because yeah, that's a big question because it is so sector dependent also.
Yeah.
So if you're selling to the military or the government, you're talking years, right? Um, if you're selling to the education industry, maybe schools, that could be months, potentially years, to close something. If you're selling to the consumer, let's say it's an app and you're selling the app to the consumer and it is $2 or $3, someone may try it, and it could be very quick, sales cycle.
Right.
So it is very sector dependent. It is very dependent on what you're trying to sell as well. Um, but what I was going to say, if it's a software company, for example, or a technology company where you're able to actually uh, provide a service or an app, where the cost is very limited, or maybe a software as a service, right? Um, I would say one of my strategies has always been give it away
Yep.
for as many people as you want. First, when you give it away, people are tolerant if there are errors or mistakes or things. They're gonna come back to you and say, hey, look, this is an error. Or if it's very erroneous, then they're gonna dump it and then you're gonna know.
Right.
So the sales cycle is dependent, but if you have the ability to get as many people on board that could actually help you test something, and then uh, really the outcome out of that would be you could say, okay, I'm going to take it away. You give them a product or you give them a service and they tried it and you say, I'm going to take it away. If they give it back to you, hey, take it, no problem,
Right.
then it's not valuable, If
Right.
they say, no, 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 I'll pay $10 more or whatever,
Right.
then
Then they're hooked.
you have something here. So I
Right.
think giving away something and try to take it back is another strategy as well. But that helps you, um, again, and then you can play with the pricing as well, because if you do an app and then the app you say it's $500, well, no one's gonna get it, and then it's too expensive. You make it for $1, and then everybody in the world gets it, and now you have other issues to deal with. Then maybe it's too cheap. So that helps you a little bit, kind of work with, understand the pricing too.
Right, right, right. That's such an interesting sales technique that you just said, right? And a lot of in olden days, a lot of car companies, car salesmen used to do that, right? They used to hand you the car keys and then start negotiating. And if you don't negotiate, give me the car keys back.
That's right.
That's
That's
such an
so,
interesting technique.
yeah.
Um, Fantastic. So now that we sort of understand your mentality a little bit, tell me about this fund that you were working on. And obviously, you took a little pause because of COVID, but I'm guessing you'll get back to it as soon as you have some time to breathe because of this competition. So tell me about what you were trying to do with that fund.
So the plan is to really have a seed type fund, a $10 million fund, so that we invest, anywhere between maybe 200 and $500,000 into a company, maybe some follow-on as well. So again, the importance of having a fund is part of our strategy at Pismo is to work with companies and not only provide them with just capital uh, from us, but also with all the human capital and services that really are more important for companies. And after we usually have worked with a company for a few months, we directly also invest in these companies, because if we have skin in the game and we've worked with them for that much and we understand the team, the dynamic, they've made some strides, uh, we want to make sure they succeed. So we help them raise capital through our network because we want them to succeed, and really potentially the skin in the game that we have would return something. But also we thought that having a fund would really add to that as well, because now we're not only just helping them get from point A to point B, but also we're helping them to really grow and provide them with that capital that help them really scale fast. And that's the whole point behind the fund.
Fantastic. So I think for angels and investors who are looking to put money at work, I think they feel much more comfortable with that type of a structure versus just a fund that just writes checks, because now you're actually coaching these, essentially coaching, right? These
Right.
entrepreneurs through the process,
Yeah.
giving them the tools that they need, giving them, that human capital that they might need. And now you're supporting them and investing in them. So
Yeah.
I think that makes a lot of sense, right?
Yeah, the other thing, like I said, that quickly is the software piece, because we have
Right.
a developed software, and most entrepreneurs end up jumping 4 or 5 different software development companies before they land on one that really helps them. And
Mm,
we thought that if we could really help them from the beginning, we could potentially save these startups not only time and opportunity loss, but potentially tens of thousands of dollars that they end up
right.
spending and losing over not having the right partner.
Right, right, right. That's fantastic. And I think that's a great sort of initiative. Now, are you starting that before the competition or after, just to understand the timing?
No, so this is ongoing. So that has been
Okay,
ongoing. Yeah, so we have it. Yeah, and the competition is a completely separate initiative. But yeah, we've had that for
got
a
it.
long.
Okay, so
Yeah,
if there are any angel investors who are interested, they should contact you right away.
they should. Yes.
Fantastic, fantastic. So now that we're talking about COVID and about all of the things that are happening, tell me, like, how has COVID affected, the companies, the portfolio companies that that you have already? How is it changing how they operate? Has it had an impact?
I think every which way possible. I think if people did, if someone didn't feel it, it's either they're doing everything right or they're not doing anything at all.
Right.
But yeah, so we have a couple of portfolio companies that have been really affected by this. One is in the software, specifically for the sports industry,
Mm,
and as you could tell, there is no sport.
right.
From tennis to basketball to football to martial arts, it's so they've been affected by this quite a bit. Um, and but as soon as things come back, so we have a strategy now that we put together where they're actually going to sign up as many academies and sports, uh, as many as possible, so that when things come back, they'll be ready to go, and they're going to give it away.
Mm,
So
okay.
because now everybody will be ready, and then they'll be able to really get started as things get started again.
Right.
So it's a great strategy to do this. Another one is they're into venues, and different venues for events and malls, etc. And that's been really affected quite a bit because no one's gathering and malls are empty, and or semi-empty maybe.
Right.
Um, and so they've actually switched gears. They pivoted to go after the construction industry. And that has been proven to work so far. So um, so really, a lot of things are changing. I mean, I could tell you stories other than our portfolio companies. There's a company that I heard of from one of my colleagues, is that they switched from the travel industry into software management, and
Mm,
it's a completely different industry.
right.
So a lot of people are being very, very creative when it comes to what they're doing today, because the the revenues are down quite a bit, and if you are a
Right.
startup and you don't have revenue, there's more devastation there too.
Right, right, right. And yeah, I mean, right now I've seen, maybe about a third of companies just completely get devastated because of COVID. Another third of the company are, just going through the roof, because they were. just happened to be in the right space
At the
in the
right time.
medical or right, exactly. And then the third of the company are trying to figure out, what's next and are pivoting, which is, I think, a really important lesson for an entrepreneur to learn. Also, it's adapting to the changing market conditions, right?
Yeah, the ones that pivoted and pivoted away, for example, that tells you you invested in the right team,
Yeah.
right? Because they
Yeah.
figured it out. They knew what it takes in order to pivot, and especially if you're going after a completely different industry.
Right.
Um, so yeah, I think that's a big part of it for sure.
That's great. So tell me about, you've been doing this for much longer than I have. So I want to sort of learn some lessons from you also. Tell me about other lessons like this, that you've learned over the last 10 years. Um,
uh,
Pivoting obviously is the number one thing in our current situation, but I'm sure you're a wealth of knowledge. So
yeah, I mean there are I could tell you there I think back to having the right team. So one is having the right team. They'll be able to continuously adjust and pivot in order to be able to make things right. The other thing that I think really important is really communication.
mm,
So the teams that communicate better really could be sometimes the difference between winning and losing, because the investors, especially when you're dealing with angels, when you're dealing with angel investors, it's mostly smart money because the investors may have access to the industry, to industry leaders, to movers and shakers that could really help the entrepreneur with their needs, maybe open doors as well. So one of the lessons that I've learned from multiple companies is that they don't communicate back with the investors or with the board. And then what happens is um, the if they had communicated back, we would have been able to help them. Say, you know
right,
what, we know the association president of this organization,
right,
and connect us to all these people, and maybe we could do this. So, or maybe when if they pivot, is communicating back and say, hey, look, I need to connect with the CEO of this company. Does anyone know?
right,
And like we're potentially one or two levels away from connecting with someone.
right.
So one of the biggest lessons again I've learned is really having communication with the companies. Uh, at Techos Angels and most investors, we ask them to give us on a regular basis maybe a quarterly report. Um, but it's not about the report. I think the report is good, but sometimes we hear it's complete silence. But pick up the phone and say, I need help.
Right.
That's a really really big deal.
Right. Yeah,
Um,
I think report is like the bare minimum, right?
yeah,
And you want you want a lot more than that. And yeah, I mean, we're all at in 7 degrees, right? So to the extent we can help the entrepreneur support someone, we're happy to get our network involved in the process.
of course we have to do that. I mean, there
Yep.
is a lot of skin in the game.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah,
So yeah, that's a fantastic lesson. So I know I could probably keep asking you 100 questions, but I always like to end with the action step, and what the we want to serve the entrepreneurs and the startup owners. So what is one thing that they can do today to get an investment from you? What's the one thing that you always want and is always missing?
uh, you know, I think the biggest thing is building trust. This really happened last week. This is not a joke. Someone made an introduction to me, and the entrepreneur, the first, it's only one sentence, uh, and he responds after he doesn't say nice to meet you, thank you, whatever, right? So, uh, are you investing? Don't waste my time if you're not.
Wow.
no, that was really, I mean, seriously. And so I replied back. I wasn't going to reply, but I did reply back saying, I'm not going to answer your question. Um, you don't know me, I don't know you. The biggest thing when it comes to investing is really trust. So most of the time, and really it's hard with this COVID world right now, but it's when you meet these entrepreneurs all the time and you work with them and you understand their work ethics, you understand how how they think, um, and now you start building that trust and you say, you know, I'm willing to invest in this team or in this startup or in this entrepreneur. So I would say, in order to get not only angels but any investor to invest or write that check, trust comes first. uh, of course, you got to have the right team with you. You got to have the right idea. You can't just come up with another, commodity and say, I'm going to make $1 billion, because you're not. But
Right.
build that trust so you can get that check potentially to be written.
That's such a great point. Such a great point. And you're absolutely right that trust, when we used to meet people in person, look them in the eye, that was a little bit easier to develop. Now, it's potentially several calls, several of these Zoom meetings.
Yeah.
It's not just one email and I'm going to write you a check. It's a relationship that you have to develop
Yeah,
over
it's
time,
building
right?
that relationship, and yeah, it's absolutely, that is really really crucial. Yeah.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, JJ, thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciated the time that you took to sort of give us the advice and your mindset. And hopefully, more startups will sign up for the national competition. And again, all the links are in the description below. So make sure if you're a startup, make sure you sign up for that. And JJ, we'll be in touch. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You made it so easy. I thought you were going to ask me some tough questions, but
No, it's just a simple conversation.
there
Nothing.
you
We're
go.
not
Thank you
grilling
so much.
anybody. No, this was perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll talk soon. Have a great
All
day.
right.
Thanks.
Wow, that was such a fantastic conversation with JJ. Again, as I said during the interview, all of the links for JJ's competition and Pismo Ventures are in the description below. So just click on those to get to JJ. If you have any specific questions for me or for JJ, leave them in the comments below. Or you can always go to startupsteroid.com and click on contact us button and leave the questions there. If you are an investor and if you're looking to join our network, go to startupsteroid.com/investor and you can connect with our network there. And if you're looking for funding, if you are a startup owner and are looking for funding for your company, go to startupsteroid.com/founder. That's startupsteroid.com/founder. And we can connect you in our network as well. So thank you so much for sticking around today, sticking around all the way to the end. And I look forward to bringing more of these kinds of conversations to you every single day, starting next week, next Tuesday, because next Monday is Labor Day, but next Tuesday, and then every day thereafter. I look forward to connecting with you soon. Bye.